Imagine, for a moment, that time has folded in on itself. You are not in your familiar surroundings, not in a quiet bedroom or a bustling city street, but somewhere far, far away, suspended in a moment of history that stretches across millennia. You are about to embark on a journey, a voyage of thought and imagination, into one of the oldest and most enduring stories ever told. This is a story of rain that falls without end, of water covering lands, of animals gathered together in a single, floating sanctuary. It is the story of survival, of patience, of human determination, and of the quiet, persistent rhythms of daily life under extraordinary circumstances. Tonight, we will walk through this story slowly, carefully, tracing the lives of those who endured the flood, the man who listened and obeyed, and the mysteries that have lingered for generations. Together, we will immerse ourselves in a world, both distant and strangely familiar, a world that invites contemplation and quiet reflection. Allow your mind to drift, letting the sound of words be a gentle companion, as we explore the life that might have been on Noah's Ark. Why, perhaps, you would not have lasted a single day. Now, imagine yourself stepping onto the ark. The first thing you notice is the air thick with the scent of animals, a mixture of wool, feathers, and earth, layered with the faint tang of hay and wood polish. The timbers beneath your feet creak gently as the vessel rocks on a sea that stretches endlessly, a gray expanse blending into the horizon. The space is cramped. Everywhere you turn, there is the soft shuffle of paws, the subtle rustle of wings, and the occasional low growl or whinny. Animals are arranged carefully, in pairs, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and curiosity. The hum of life surrounds you constantly, a rhythm that becomes both comforting and persistent. So much movement, so much sound, yet somehow all contained within the boundaries of the ark's wooden walls. You begin to notice the routines that sustain life in this confined space. Every day is measured, feeding, watering, cleaning. Your hands become familiar with the textures of hay and grain. Your arms grow accustomed to lifting buckets and sweeping floors. The smell of wet animals mingles with the fresh scent of the wood and occasionally the salty temps of the endless rain that pounds against the ark's roof. The water outside is relentless. Each day, it seems, the horizon grows wider, swallowing familiar landmarks. The constant drum of rain on the roof becomes a lullaby of sorts. Yet a lullaby with an edgy reminder of the vastness surrounding you, of the smallness of your shelter. In comparison to the oceans that now dominate the world, every creak of the ark is amplified, every sway felt through your bones. As you adjust to a rhythm dictated by waves and wind rather than sunlight or moonlight, time is measured differently here. Days melt into nights without distinction. Sleep is interrupted by the soft calls of animals or the occasional worry that the ark might strain beneath its burdens. You watch for signs of land, yet see only water, stretching like a gray mirror reflecting the low, clouded sky. Meals are simple, shared quietly, often eaten while standing or leaning against the wooden rails. Conversation is subdued. Voices are kept low, almost reverent, for fear of disturbing the fragile balance of life all around you. And yet, amidst the endless rain and close quarters, there is an intimate rhythm to existence here. Each morning you rise to the soft sounds, of life. Each evening you settle into the shared warmth of bodies, both human and animal. The fear of what lies beyond the ark is present, yet tempered by the routine, by the simple acts that sustain life: feeding, cleaning, observing, and waiting. Imagine yourself lying down at night, the ark gently rocking beneath you. The smell of hay clings to your hair, the distant lowing of cattle drifts into your dreams, and the water beats a constant, steady rhythm against the hull. Outside, the world is washed in rain, unbroken and infinite. Inside, you exist in a bubble of motion and life, a suspended microcosm of the world, where every breath, every movement, every small act is a quiet testament to endurance. You may think you could manage a day here, but imagine days stretching into weeks, weeks into months. The monotony is unrelenting, punctuated only by the needs of those around you and the constant maintenance of life. There is no escape, no change of scenery, no reprieve from the ever-present odor, the rocking floor, the endless water. To survive here requires patience, humility, and an acceptance of a new, constrained rhythm, one that allows you to exist within the boundaries of the ark without losing your mind to the monotony and the ceaseless rain in these confined quarters. Every small task: pouring water into troughs, distributing feed, observing the animal's behavior, becomes monumental. Life is a constant attention to detail, a never-ending cycle of care, observation, and gentle correction. You come to notice the subtle signals, the twitch of an ear, the flick of a tail, the patterns of feeding. These become markers of time, small constancies in an otherwise unchanging and watery expanse, and through it all you wait. Wait for a sign of land. Wait for the rain to ease. Wait for the world to return to some form of normalcy. The ark is not just a vessel of survival, it is a suspended world, a floating microcosm where the ordinary and the extraordinary blend together in a constant, soothing rhythm. Now, let us shift our attention from the rhythm of life on the ark to the man at the center of this story, Noah. Imagine him not as a distant figure from legend, but as a human being with thoughts, doubts, and routines as measured and deliberate as your own Noah's days before the flood were long, punctuated by tasks that many would have found strange or even laughable. He built a vessel of impossible proportions, a massive ark, following precise instructions that seemed to outsiders excessive, even absurd. Yet Noah worked with a steady, almost meditative patience. Each plank, each nail, each carefully measured chamber was a testament to his commitment. The rhythm of his work, cutting, shaping, fastening, was a quiet drumbeat echoing through the years. Imagine yourself beside him as he labors. The air smells of sawdust and fresh-cut wood. His hands are calloused, his clothes dusted with fine shavings. Neighbors may have whispered, shaking their heads at his devotion to a task they could not comprehend. Yet he persisted, day after day, year after year, guided by a sense of duty that surpassed fear, ridicule, or doubt. It was not just construction that defined Noah. He was a caretaker, a planner, a guardian of life. He thought in pairs, considering every animal he would shelter. He calculated space and sustenance, predicting needs months, even years in advance. Feeding, housing, and organizing such a variety of creatures required a mind attentive to detail, a spirit disciplined in routine. Imagine the quiet precision with which he made lists, measured grains, and assigned spaces. Everything had its place. Everything mattered. Noah's obedience was not blind. It was deliberate. It was an alignment of his understanding with a vision that few could see. He endured ridicule and skepticism, yet he never faltered. Each swing of the hammer, each careful placement of a beam, was an act of faith made manifest. In the solitude of construction, with only the wind, the sun, and the distant chatter of onlookers, he became a man defined by patience. When the rains finally began, Noah's life changed from long-term preparation to immediate vigilance. Each day on the ark required constant observation, the behavior of animals, the stability of the structure, the distribution of supplies. He rose before dawn, attending to the needs of every living creature aboard, moving through narrow corridors and steep ramps with practiced care. Meals were simple and measured. Sleep was brief and punctuated by responsibility. Yet, in this relentless routine, there was a quiet nobility. Imagine Noah walking the length of the ark, pausing to observe a pair of lions resting or a dove fluttering anxiously. He offered gentle guidance, a reassuring hand, a measured voice. Every act of care was an act of love and perseverance, a calm defiance against the chaos that roared outside in the form of endless rain. Noah's obedience was also a solitude of the mind. He had chosen, or perhaps been chosen, to carry the weight of the future within his hands. In the long nights, with the rhythmic drumming of rain and the soft calls of the animals, he might have reflected on the enormity of his task, the survival of life itself. And yet, he did not falter. He acted with quiet certainty, moving steadily through each moment, each duty, as if the very cadence of his life had been calibrated for this extraordinary purpose. It is tempting to think of heroism as loud or dramatic, but Noah's heroism was subtle. It was in the daily choices, the meticulous attention to detail, the unwavering patience, the silent endurance of skepticism. It was in the decision to obey when it would have been easier to ignore, to work when it would have been simpler to rest, to persist when the world seemed indifferent. And as the ark floated through unending waters, Noah's obedience became a living rhythm. It was mirrored in the routines of those around him, in the careful tending of each animal, in the measured organization of life amid chaos. The story of Noah reminds us that survival is not merely about strength or courage. It is about consistency, patience, and fidelity to a vision larger than oneself. Picture now, as you drift in your own thoughts, Noah moving silently through the ark at night. The soft creak of the wood, the gentle breathing of animals, and the steady rain beyond the walls compose a quiet symphony. Each step he takes is deliberate, each glance measured. The world may be submerged, uncertain and unyielding, yet within these walls there is order, there is care, there is life, and there is the quiet power of obedience. Noah's story is not a tale of dramatic triumph, but of steady resolve. And in the gentle rhythm of his days, one can find a strange comforter, reassurance that even amidst uncertainty, thoughtful action and patient endurance create a sanctuary, a small yet enduring space of safety and continuity. As the ark drifted into legend, long after its wooden beams had faded into memory, a new story began, one of searching. Humanity has always been drawn to remnants of the past, to tangible connections with the stories we tell, and few stories are as enduring as that of Noah's Ark. For centuries, people have asked, did it really exist? If so, where did it come to rest? Ancient traditions tell us the ark landed on the mountains of Ararat, a range rising in modern-day Turkey, where clouds gather around the peaks and snow lingers even in the warmth of summer. For those who sought the ark, Ararat became more than a mountain. It became a beacon of mystery, a place where faith and curiosity converged. Imagine standing at the base of that mountain. The air is thin, cool, tinged with the scent of stone and alpine grass. The slopes are steep and scattered with ridges, cliffs, and glaciers. Explorers across centuries have looked upward, imagining a vessel of impossible size resting somewhere above the clouds, preserved in ice, waiting to be found. Medieval travelers spoke of sightings dark shapes in the snow, pieces of wood exposed by the shifting ice. Local villagers told stories of timbers brought down the mountain, weathered by time, yet infused with a sense of sacredness. These accounts, half memory and half legend, fueled imaginations. The ark was said to appear at times of great need, glimpsed through the mists like a silent guardian of the past. In the 19th and 20th centuries, with the rise of archaeology and modern exploration, interest grew. Expeditions were launched, teams of climbers, scholars, and seekers carrying supplies up the mountain. They braved the thin air, the snowstorms, the shifting rocks, and the ever-present veil of cloud. Some returned with photographs of curious formation shapes that seemed almost too regular, too straight, to be natural. Yet the mountain kept its secrets well. One of the most famous discoveries came from above. It looked like the outline of a ship, resting in the earth, its shape curved and symmetrical. For some, this was confirmation. For others, merely a geological formation. The debates were quiet but persistent, stretching across decades. Was this truly the ark, or simply nature shaping stone into a familiar form? Even in recent times, explorers have claimed evidence: beams of ancient wood, chambers carved into the ice, strange anomalies hidden beneath the snow. Yet each claim has been met with skepticism. The ark, if it existed, remains elusively just beyond proof, just beyond reach. A reminder that some mysteries are meant to linger. Imagine, for a moment, the ark preserved beneath layers of snow, cradled in ice, resting silently as centuries pass. Wind sweeps across the mountain slopes, carrying with it the faint sound of shifting glaciers. Perhaps it is there, waiting. Or perhaps it has long since returned to the earth, its timbers decayed, its form dissolved into soil and stone. Either way, the search continues, not only for wood and beams, civilizations. And perhaps this is the deeper truth of the search for the ark. It is less about the vessel itself and more about what it represents. A bridge between the human longing for proof and the human need for meaning. The real ark may exist more within memory and imagination than in the stones of Ararat. As you listen, picture the mountain shrouded in mist. Snow settles in soft layers across the ridges. Streams flow gently down its slopes, and silence blankets the peaks. Somewhere in that silence lies a story, preserved not necessarily in wood, but in the enduring hope of discovery. The ark becomes less a physical artifact and more a symbol of endurance, a quiet presence on the horizon of faith and history. And so, the search continues. Not always with shovels or ropes, but with questions, whispered across generations. Questions about survival, about beginnings, about the way stories carry us through time. Before the ark, before the endless rains, there was a world filled with people living their daily rhythms, a world both familiar and alien to us now. To understand the flood story fully, we must pause and imagine what that ancient world may have been like. The world that was washed away. Picture broad valleys where rivers wound lazily through fertile soil, their banks crowded with fields of grain. Imagine the sound of tools on stone, the low voices of farmers calling to oxen, and the laughter of children echoing between huts made of mud and timber. Life, for most, was simple and repetitive, measured by planting and harvest, by the cycle of sun and moon. Bread was baked on open hearths, water drawn carefully from wells. At night, fires flickered, casting shadows on walls, as families gathered in quiet conversation. And yet, alongside this simplicity, there were layers of complexity. Ancient traditions tell of a society that had grown wealthy and proud. Some households lived not in huts, but in large dwellings, their walls plastered smooth, their floors decorated with patterned rugs. Traders crossed long distances, bringing precious metals, spices, and textiles. Elites feasted on delicacies, while laborers toiled in the fields. The world before the flood was not only a world of survival, it was a world of hierarchy, of ambition, of inequality. Imagine yourself walking through a marketplace of that time. The smell of fresh grain and dried fish mingles with incense burned by merchants to draw attention to their stalls. Clay jars line wooden tables filled with oil and honey. Bronze tools glint in the sunlight, a sign of technological progress. Voices rise and fall in a mixture of barter and gossip, while musicians strum simple instruments, their melodies weaving gently through the air. But beneath the liveliness there was unease. Ancient accounts describe a world where corruption had spread, where violence and cruelty had become too common. Perhaps it was visible in the way the powerful treated the weak, or in the way greed overshadowed gratitude. Imagine the frustration of a farmer losing his crop to the demands of officials, or the quiet despair of families pushed aside by the ambitions of rulers. To those who looked closely, the balance of life felt fragile. And then there were the great gatherings, moments when leaders and nobles displayed their wealth, banquets filled with roasted meats, overflowing cups of wine, and music echoing through decorated halls. For the few, life was rich with luxury. For the many, it was a constant struggle for survival. The contrast was sharp, the divide undeniable. Into this world came Noah, moving quietly with his family, building an ark that seemed out of place among the markets and fields. Neighbors may have passed by, shaking their heads, while they returned to their own concern-strayed feasts, disputes, and daily labor. Few could have imagined how swiftly everything they knew would vanish, and when the rains came, the contrasts were erased. Rich and poor, powerful and humble, all were equal before the rising waters. The bustling markets fell silent, the grand halls emptied, the fields submerged beneath a vast expanse of water. The rhythms of daily life, the planting, the bargaining, the feasting were replaced by stillness, by silence, by the leveling presence of the flood. Reflect for a moment on this contrast. the world before the flood, filled with noise and activity, and the world during the flood, defined by waiting and endurance. The ark itself became a bridge between these two worlds, one of abundance, but also corruption, and one of renewal, stripped of everything but life itself. As you imagine this ancient world, picture the lives of those who lived before the flood. The farmer bent over his crops, the child chasing chickens through the dust, the noble reclining at a feast. Their world was vivid, textured, enlivened, yet impermanent. It dissolved in rain, leaving only memory and story, carried forward to remind us that civilizations, no matter how grand, are fragile. And so, the story of Noah's Ark is not just about survival upon the waters. It is about the contrast between what came before and what endured. It is about remembering the fragility of societies, the rhythms that sustain us, and the thin line between permanence and impermanence. Now, as we return from this long journey through time, allow yourself to rest in the comfort of the present. The ark, with its creaking timbers and crowded quarters, belongs to another age. The mountains of Ararat, wrapped in snow and mist, remain far away. The bustling markets and quiet farms of the world before the flood are but echoes. Here, in your own space, you are safe. There is no endless rain pressing against your walls, no vast ocean swallowing your horizons. There is only the gentle rhythm of your own breath, the steady beat of your heart, and the quiet presence of the moment. As you close your eyes, imagine the ark drifting into silence, the waters calming, the mountains rising in the distance. Let the story settle like mist, soft and unhurried, carrying you into rest. For the past is vast, its rhythms endless, and tonight it has lulled you gently toward sleep.